Hi friends, do you ever feel like you can't have a conversation with a complete stranger? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got out of my head and into conversations with complete strangers. My name is Raquel, and I am a licensed professional counselor candidate in the state of Colorado. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. This is where I do mental health content with a twist because I use my own stories and experiences and share the way that my body and mind processes the information. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Yesterday, on my walk home from work, I ran into a very lovely older couple. They started to have a conversation with me, and before I knew it, I was opening my mouth and words were falling out. I thought, well, look at me. I'm having a conversation with complete strangers. As I continued my walk, I realized that this had happened several times over the course of the past few weeks. And so I really let that fall into my awareness, and I really started to think about that. Wow, over the last few weeks, I have been able to be out of my head, sure briefly, but out of my head, and in this world, having complete conversations with strangers. That is not very typical for me. And I know you might be thinking, okay, fine, what's the big deal? You had some conversations with complete strangers, so what? Isn't that something that you do for a living? Don't you have conversations with people all of the time as a therapist? And yes, you are right. And you might not be thinking that at all. This might be all just part of my own self-negative talk. But either way, this is a huge deal. Because despite the fact that, yes, I have conversations with people every day, all day as a therapist, that is part of my job. When it comes to having very simple conversations with complete strangers, there are a whole bunch of negative narratives that start happening in my head. When I'm out and I am in the world, I am usually in my head. And the thoughts and the narratives and the talk that is happening in my head sounds like this. Yikes. What if she turns around and starts talking to me? Uh-oh, did that person just look at me? Maybe they're going to want to talk to me. And then what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do if somebody tries to talk to me? And then it goes to, okay, avoid eye contact. Don't be seen, don't be noticed. Try as much as you can so that nobody knows that you're here right now. I know, sounds pretty intense, right? So here are 5 takeaways from this realization of having conversations with complete strangers. Takeaway number 1, when I realized that something was a little bit different. In other words, I was not in my head and I was actually having a conversation with this older couple on my walk home from work. I named it and I acknowledged it. I acknowledged the fact that something different was happening that didn't usually happen for me, and I named that. It was only then that I was able to realize that it had actually happened several times before over the course of the past few weeks. Takeaway number 2. I celebrated the fact that there was this positive change. I celebrated the fact that I was able to have a conversation with not only this older couple who I ran across on my walk home from work, but I had also done it several times that day, several times that week, and actually several times over the course of the past couple of weeks. And so I celebrated that moment. I didn't let myself minimize the moment. I didn't let those negative narratives come into my mind and take over the conversation, shutting the conversation down and shutting down the celebration. I allowed myself to celebrate this shift that had happened. Takeaway number 3, I'm living in a world with other humans. I know, groundbreaking, right? No, but seriously, I am living in a world with other humans. And if those humans decide to engage with me, it's okay for me to engage back. It doesn't have to sound perfect. It doesn't have to be the best sentence in the world. And if I make a mistake while I'm talking to them, so what? Big deal. Who cares? If I want to, it could be a very simple conversation about something that is mundane. It doesn't have to be a serious conversation, and I don't have to be perfect while I'm having it. Takeaway message number 4. This change wasn't forced. I didn't sit down and give myself goals as to how many people I was going to engage with over the course of 2 weeks. I didn't force myself to go out and start conversing with complete strangers. This was a very organic process that happened. It's my belief that as I process my experiences and as I heal from those experiences, there's a part of me that begins to shine and that begins to come out and be expressed in the world. In other words, again, it was a very organic and natural process that I actually didn't even realize was happening until I gave myself a moment to acknowledge and name this tiny little shift that was actually a big deal. Takeaway number 5. The last takeaway is actually only falling to my awareness at this moment as I work on this video. And that is that much of my life is happening inside my head. And sometimes that place inside my head can be very unkind and it can actually be cruel. And while I was on my walk home yesterday, for just a moment, I was able to be out of my head and completely immersed in this world. I was able to hear the sounds of this world. I was able to see the shapes and the colors in their fullness in this world. I was able to feel it from my head down to my toes. And that was such a beautiful feeling, to really be out of my head and in this world, experiencing this world with all it has to offer, including the other humans that are around that sometimes want to engage with me, and it's okay for me to engage back. Well, friends, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and spending a few minutes with me. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Here is another video for you, a 9-minute meditation for grounding. Thanks again. Until next time, bye for now.